So before we start, what's always nice to do is introductions. So to start off, my name is Matt. I'm the Student Recruitment Manager for the College of Legal Practice. It's my job to oversee the journey that prospective students take from their initial interest in the college through to enrolling onto one of our courses. But we also have two students with us. So Kate, if you'd like to introduce yourself.
Hi everyone, my name's Kate and I'm a current student of the Graduate Foundation in Law course at the college, and I'm sure we'll do a bit of a longer introduction a little bit later on, but hello.
And then Liz.
Hi everybody, my name is Liz and I'm a part-time student at the college as well, doing the Graduate Foundation in Law.
Amazing, thank you both. Like Kate alluded to, they're going to do a little bit more of a longer introduction halfway through this webinar. What we're going to do to give you a nice little oversight of our structure for this, we're going to give you a nice overview of the journey to becoming a solicitor. So trying to give you a bit of an understanding of how you would do that in England and Wales with the new qualification, which is the SQE. We're then going to give, a nice overview of our Graduate Foundation in Law and what that programme is. We'll then go into a bit of a conversation. So we're taking this slightly differently, and we're going to probably have a good 20-25 minutes of conversation with Kate and Liz and hearing their thoughts and delving a little bit deeper into their experiences. Once we've had that conversation, we're going to have a look at the support that we provide to our students to succeed on the GFL. And then we'll also have some course calendar and some admission dates up for you to see if you're interested in signing up to one of our courses. But also then how can you keep in contact? What else can you do to keep in contact with us and keep engaged with us? So to start, the journey to becoming a solicitor. So the journey to becoming a solicitor has changed in the last couple of years and will change permanently in the next few years or the next several years. So previously the route to qualification in England and Wales has been through the LPC. That is being slowly phased out and being replaced by what's now called the Solicitors Qualifying Exam, otherwise known as the SQE, which is the four-piece puzzle piece you can see on the left-hand side of the screen. So what this does, it really nicely outlines the 4 areas that you need to complete to become a qualified solicitor in England and Wales. So to quickly whiz through those, the first top left green one is have a degree or equivalent. Now, this is a big change from the LPC, where you had to have a LLB or you needed a GDL, PGDL to be able to enroll onto the LPC. So this is now different in the sense that you just need to have an undergraduate or equivalent work experience to enroll or pass on the SQE. So that's the big first change, which is why we're also here to talk about our GFL. Secondly, you need to pass SQE1 and SQE2. SQE1 is based around functional legal knowledge, so looking at the 13 practice areas of law in England and Wales. SQE2 looks at the skills you need to be able to deliver, so that's more practical examinations as opposed to SQE1, which is all MCQs. The bottom left part of the puzzle piece, qualifying work experience, this is another big change. This has replaced what was called the training contract on the LPC. So to qualify on the LPC, you had to complete a 2-year training contract. Whereas now all you need to do is have 2 years full-time equivalent work experience, and you can get this in so many different ways. So as opposed to being tied down to just a training contract, you could get voluntary experience, it could be work you've done in the past, so you can bank work experience, and it just needs to be signed off by a qualified solicitor within the SRA. So there's a lot more flexibility for you to be able to achieve the work experience part of the SQE. And lastly, you need to meet suitability requirements. That's a little test that you have to do and submit a form at the end of, once you've passed all of those 3 areas, you send off to the SRA. So that gives you a very brief overview of the SQE. What we've done on the right-hand side of the screen is give you a little bit of what we see the journey as for non-law graduates transferring into law. So what we have and what we're here to talk about today is our Graduate Foundation in Law programme. This is either a 20 or 40-week programme, full-time or part-time, looking at supporting non-law graduates who want to qualify through the SQE. Those who want to qualify through the LPC, we would recommend that our GFL is not right for you, as our GFL is aligned to support people going straight onto SQE preparation or an LLM that includes SQE. What the next step after that GFL is, as you can see, is SQE preparation module. So these are 2 standalone courses, which then can also be bundled into what we call an LLM. So our LLM is a master's level, fully accredited postgraduate degree, which includes SQE1 prep and SQE2. Now, all of those orange boxes, what you can see are elective modules that you can choose. So if there's any areas of law that you're really interested in discussing further, learning further and developing in further, you can use the LLM to start to select these and really enhance and develop yourself in specific areas of law if you want to specialise. And then lastly, the blue box down the bottom is our capstone module. That's the third set module, part of the LLM, which is a long research project you do throughout the programme. So that would be your general, on the academic and learning front, journey from becoming a non-law graduate through to qualifying on the SQE. So the Graduate Foundation in Law, what is the college's Graduate Foundation in Law? So this is a programme that provides an introduction to law for non-law students who want to qualify or get onto an SQE preparation programme in a slightly quicker time than what a GDL or PGDL might offer. So a lot of GDLs or PGDLs might be 2 years, maybe a year if you can find the right one. However, our programme is very concise and very sharp, and we offer over a 20-week full-time or a 40-week part-time programme. This programme does offer credits, however, it is not a awarding degree, so there's no certificate at the end, but you do receive a transcript with X number of credits at level 6 at the end. It covers all of the foundation areas, so contract law, criminal, land, public and European, tort and trust law. So we cover all of those, and there's a further subject, an introduction to law, so a brief module that just gives you kind of the background of England and Welsh law. It's designed specifically, as I said, for those who wish to move and transfer towards the SQE after they complete this degree, so it really sets you up with the practical knowledge. There's directed reading and preparation activities, and we'll delve a lot further into this when we speak to Kate and Liz, who are with us. We have a number of workshops with subject matter experts, so these are led by people practicing in that specific area of law. You're delivered through the workshops, but also town halls and one-to-one supervision, where you get to have a short meeting with a supervisor. And then you also have access to Westlaw, which is an online legal database. So there's a lot of resources that we provide you very early on to give you the understanding of what you're going to need to kind of consolidate the information you're taking on board. So you can see on the right-hand side of the screen, we've just tried to break down what the two options are, how they might impact you. Whenever you're looking to study a degree in a different area, you want to try and understand how it's going to impact your time, your professional time. Are you a full-time employee? Do you have a lot of personal commitments throughout the week? So our full-time program looks at 30 to 35 hours of study. So if you want to study full-time, this would be a good option for you. You would have 2 two-hour workshops each week, and everything is delivered in teaching blocks. The 40-week program, you're looking at around 20 hours study, and you'd have 1 workshop per week. So it's broken down quite nicely for you to be able to understand. Both programs are evaluated through coursework and not exams. So it's key to understand that you're assessed as you go through with coursework. Why would you want to consider our GFL? As we've already kind of alluded to, it has a unique focus to the SQE. So anybody who's wanting to really pursue the SQE early on, and they've already identified that, this is a fantastic course to be able to get through. The SQE doesn't require an LLB or GDL, which is why this, again, is a really attractive option for students, as this is not necessarily a necessity, but it gives you that real springboard to be able to take the SQE and challenge it quite early on. Sometimes we find people who come from a non-law background and pick up the SQE straight away really struggle to pick up 13 practice areas. A 20-week program or 40-week program that you can do obviously in less than a year gives you a fantastic opportunity to pick up knowledge straight away. There's a practical focus to the course, so it focuses on developing analytical and your practical legal skills, and it is a level 6 course, meaning you can progress to our LLM in legal practice. We don't think that you need to go then to an LLB straight away. You can head straight onto our LLM. Our firms that we work with have fed back that it really reflects a full conversion course. Sometimes we have questions that because it's shorter, does it mean that you're not going to get as good experience or enough knowledge as you would on a GDL or a PGDL? But the firms we work with have reflected that it's very similar to a full conversion course. On the right-hand side, you can just see some lovely standout facts. Half the cost of a GDL, covers the 6 foundation, and it can be completed in just 20 weeks. We have some student feedback down the bottom there, and I'm not going to go through those because we've got 2 students with us today. But if people wish to have a look at those and read those, what we'll be doing after is I'll send this webinar back out for individuals to watch on YouTube, and you can find those there. But what I'm really keen to do is get into conversation with our 2 students. So what we're going to do, our two students, Kate and Liz, are going to kind of do a nice brief introduction, each 5 minutes or so, just talking about who they are and why they chose the college. And then we're going to go into a little bit of questioning. So I'm going to stop sharing my screen and I am going to hand over for you, Kate.
Thanks, Matt. Hello, everyone. I just thought I'd start off with a little bit of background about what attracted me to law, and then I'll speak a bit about what attracted me specifically to the college. So probably when I was 15 or 16, I was lucky to be able to get a couple of weeks of work experience in a couple of law firms which were nearby through my school. And that was kind of something that really sort of started the interest in law for me. But I was lucky in the sense that I enjoyed quite a lot of different subjects at school. And in particular languages, I still do a real passion for languages. So I studied French and Spanish at A-level, and languages were something that I really wanted to pursue at university as well. So I remember I went to a law fair, and I basically said, would I be at a disadvantage if I didn't do a law degree, if I then choose to go on to pursue a legal career? And they said, no, basically do what you enjoy and do what you think you can do well at. So I ended up going for Spanish and International Management at the University of Bath. So I had 4 years there, which, on the management side. I had 3 law modules included in that, which was a good sort of introduction for me. And it was something that really sort of consolidated my interest, particularly the employment law module that I did in my final year at Bath. So I graduated last year, and during my final semester I was sort of applying to vacation schemes, although my primary focus was making sure that I did as well as I could in my degree. So in terms of when I got to the end of my degree, I then had a decision to make whether I took a year out and spent that year trying to apply directly to firms to try to get them to fund my my legal education, or whether I take the plunge and go for a course myself and self-fund. So I considered a lot of the well-established legal education providers out there, but as soon as I'd taken the decision to self-fund, as Matt said earlier, obviously the cost factor comes into play. I think it would be naive to, not to acknowledge that, because it's so much cheaper than all of the other legal education providers out there. So that was a massive tick for me. And then beyond that, I looked into the kind of supervisors who were delivering. Obviously, again, it's a relatively new, it's certainly in this country, it's a new legal education provider. So I had a look at the kind of people that I'd be working with, and you sort of could really tell via their LinkedIn and sort of just websites that they really knew their stuff, and you'd be in good hands when you sign up with the College of Legal Practice. Also, I was really attracted to the fact that it's all online. So I, like Liz, we're both doing it part-time. So that means that we can sort of fit our work around. So for example, for me, I'm doing some tennis coaching, which I can fit around my studies, and that's so much easier to do with the online aspect of it. And now we've sort of fed back as a cohort that we'd like our workshops to be recorded, and the college has said that they're going to trial that out for us next, for our next block of teaching. So that will make it even more flexible in terms of fitting in around your work. So yeah, as Matt said, I think it's a really good sort of intermediary step from being a non-law graduate to the SQE. Over to you, Liz.
Thanks, Kate. Yeah, so my background is completely different to yours, Kate, which I think is a good example for our viewers here today. So I'm a mature student for a start. So when I first graduated, when I did my undergrad, we're talking a couple of decades ago. So, so my background is that I've come from like third sector education and even like pastoral ministry background and leadership. Sort of charity leadership. So I've been doing that for quite a lot of years here in the UK and overseas as well in Asia. And I've never had an interest in law. But sort of the last sort of year, a couple of years, I've been really kind of wanting to change the direction or maybe add to my direction, to my career. I've also been dabbling in politics the last few years, which is a good overlap with that subject. So, and yeah, law just came to mind. And so I started researching it. Before I settled on the College of Legal Practice, I did a couple of months of real research into other educational providers. I work full time, so it would have to have been online and part-time. So I really kind of educated myself on what I need on the SQEs as well, and the SRA, what they require. And looking at all the reviews of other providers, and then I can't remember how I got to hear of the College of Legal Practice, probably on LinkedIn. It just became a real obvious choice to me. Like Kate, I also sort of did my research of all the Dr. Giles Proctor, you know, the CEO and other lecturers, and I could see, you know, these people have years of experience and really knew their subject matter. And what I also liked was the fact that I know it's, you know, it's a new course, and I prefer a smaller environment where you can get to know people and you have easier access to your tutors. You know, I know that if I email a tutor within 24 hours or so, I will get a reply. Whereas some of the feedback I heard with other educational providers, that wasn't the case. They found it really hard to get any communication back, you know, from the staff. So that was also a big plus. Also, like you mentioned, Kate, the fact that it's like so cheap by comparison was a huge, because I'm self-funding too. My hubby's paying, so you know he's very interested in saving money. So so that was also a big tick. So yeah, and the fact that it's a conversion course, you know, so because I didn't know anything about law at all, and like UK, I had no prior experience or knowledge. So, you know, this is really essential for me. I did find it hard the first month or two, I think. But it does get easier as you sort of progress and look around at other resources as well, which I've been doing. But yeah, I totally have no regrets. Yeah, it's going really well.
Amazing, both. Thank you for that initial insight. It's really, you know, interesting to just hear both your backgrounds, like Liz talking about being in Asia. I'm like, that sounds really exciting and really interesting. But I think what the first thing I'd really like to kind of hone in on, and this opens the floor up to both of you, is one question we get a lot in the recruitment team from people on the phone and emails, is they do reference the costs a lot. We are a lot cheaper than other providers, and that actually can be a concern for a lot of people. Because they think it's cheaper, so they're not going to get as much, or the standard's not going to be as great. What's your opinion on that? What do you think, you know, from the fees that you've paid, do you feel in comparison to previous education you've received, where does it kind of pit against?
Well, do you mind if I answer, okay? Because I had that concern myself when I kind of was provisionally thinking about, you know, joining up with COLP. I thought, this is too good to be true. There's got to be something wrong, you know. But you know, after looking at student reviews of other courses that you run and looking at the lecturers and their experience, I thought, well, you know, what can go wrong? And I think what really settled it was the fact that I discovered that this college has a mother college in Australia, I think, and I read somewhere that it's non-profitable, and that they, you know, they're not out to, you know, get as much money from students. And for me, that just clinched it, you know, especially coming from a charity third sector background myself. I'm like, oh, wow, okay, so they're genuine, you know, and that really clinched it for me. And yeah, you know, it's definitely, you know, the tutors are of high quality. They really know their stuff. They're really professional. So yeah, I definitely, yeah, that was, you know, a big plus for me, just finding out the reason why they sort of keep their fees low.
Amazing. Go on, Kate.
No, yeah, I'd echo all of that. Yeah, I think it's really good value for money in terms of what you get, in terms of the access to the online resources that you have for the workshops, and to just do some wider reading as well. As you mentioned earlier, you have access when you sign up to Westlaw and Practical Law, which are really fantastic resources to be able to go away and do some extra research if you want to, or just to look into some, you know, for example, something that we covered in the course of a workshop in more depth. And yeah, just I would echo what Liz said about really sort of having access to some really fantastic experts in their field, I'd say. That really does come across when you're asking questions, and sometimes people will ask sort of questions that are related, obviously, but just not exactly what we've covered. And I think that really does test how much you know about a subject. And I'm yet to hear any supervisor say, I'll have to get back to you on that one or anything like that. They know the answers and they really do know their stuff, which is very reassuring for us as students. So
amazing. Yeah, that's always one thing we like to try and dispel slightly, is we always get the question of why so cheap, and people then assume cheap means not as good quality. But it's great to hear that you both are enjoying the experience so far. I guess, so I wanted to get that one out of the way because you both mentioned it, so it was great to jump on it. I think a really great place to start is the start of each of your journeys. So a really great question, and one to pit to you both, is why did you want to do a law conversion course? What kind of brought you to it?
Do you want to go first, Kate?
Yeah. So for me, because there wasn't a law department in Bath, there was sort of like in the management department, there was a law kind of subsection, but not a full department. I felt a little bit in the dark in terms of the whole route through. It's a lot clearer now. There's more information and events like this, which are really helpful. But at the time, it was all very new. But basically, I felt that even though there was the shift away from people now don't have to do a law conversion, from having spoken to people, I've got a couple of friends who did a law degree and then are doing their SQE prep, and they basically said, it's a really big step to go from even the law degree to the SQE content, just in terms of the volume. So for me, it was really important to be able to have a course to sort of lay the groundwork and kind of really sort of build up a really strong foundation of legal knowledge that I could hopefully build on in the run up to the SQE. And I think this is a good sort of step to take from having done the non-law degree with the aim of working towards the best possible result for the SQE exams. So I personally think it would be too big a step to just jump from a non-law degree and then basically try to teach yourself a lot of the stuff and just like jump straight into the SQE. So it was definitely a case of that I wanted to do the law conversion. It was just where, and as we've mentioned, I think the college was a really good choice.
Amazing. Okay, Liz, sorry.
Yeah, well, I've already mentioned I didn't have any law background, so I needed obviously to do a conversion course, and I'd learned about the SQE exams, and what I could see, from the College of Legal Practice, that is that you've got a really good, well thought out flow of programs set out. That once you've done this graduate GFL, then wait a month or two, and you can sign up then for the SQE1 prep course. And you could flow on to do the SQE2 prep course with the college as well. It was kind of all planned out. And I thought, well, that's just really set up really well. So I could just begin with this and then progress to the SQE prep exams courses as well. So that just seemed like a really good idea to do.
Amazing. I think as we go through that journey, it's trying to delve into those experiences now. And that's what I really want to try to touch on and get an understanding. Because our students come from different backgrounds, different corners of the world. So being a virtual college, we have students everywhere around the world. So everybody has different experiences getting to us, but then also different experiences with us. So I think what's really great to start with in this bit is kind of your experience with the college. What has your experience with the college been like so far? What's been kind of standing out for you? I think what's also really good to touch on is, and what you mentioned earlier, Kate, around feedback. Get an understanding of how feedback is listened to, because that's really important for us. So Liz, your experience of the college so far, what's kind of from your day of starting with us, so actually even before, so when you signed up, contact with the college, what was that process like?
Okay. Yeah, my experience with the college has been very good, and I'm not just saying that, it really has been so far. So when I first decided to sort of seriously think about joining this college, I kind of bombarded them with emails, lots of questions, because I always have lots of questions about things. And, working full time, my questions one big question I had was, well, when are the classes? I assumed because it was online that it would be, in an evening or a weekend. And then when I started, actually, I discovered it was actually in the daytime. So I was a little bit of a surprise, but my employer managed, I can have the 2 hours, that's what the workshops last, to have that up each week. So that worked out fine. But yeah, they answered, all my questions promptly. Gave all the information I needed, everything. They've got a really good website, with lots of information on as well. There's a good team. So before I signed up, I did sort of email them quite a bit, and they answered all my emails, quite happily. So
Real Kate.
Yeah, again, I think one of the standout things for me is that, like Liz said, probably because it's slightly smaller at the moment, you do definitely get a sense that you're really listened to, and I'm sure that'll continue as the college grows. But yeah, it's just very nice to feel like that your feedback is valued. So, for example, I know quite a lot of people are in the same position as Liz, and they're working full time. So I think we sort of had a chat amongst ourselves, because initially the workshops weren't recorded, which meant that obviously if you weren't able to get that slot off work, you'd be relying on the very good, but it's not quite the same as attending the workshop and you get that same feedback. So I messaged, I emailed our two kind of main contacts, and they were very good, and they said, we'll look into this for you. And we've now been told that they're going to trial run it for our next block of teaching with recording the workshops, which is great to hear. I'd also say, in terms of the actual content as well of the workshop, so as well as being given a lot of reading to do, as you'd expect, we also have access to podcasts, which is really good for me. I really enjoy listening to those quite often at the start, just as you're kind of being introduced to a new topic. It's a good way to break up the reading and just have it on in the background, and you can it's nice to have a different way of learning, for me anyhow. And then at the end of the workshop, a day after, we also are given access to model answers, which is really good to be able to go back and check, just double check that you've picked up the main points, and compare sort of your notes with what the college want you to pick up. So very good in terms of quality of resources that we have access to, I'd say.
Can I just add to that, Matt? Would that be all right?
Go for it.
Yeah, so like Kate said, we've got great access to this portal, and you can access the portal on an app on your phone as well. But being a mature student, I like a good sort of a paper copy of things, and they send you this to your house. Lots of reading there. So even though it's all available, electronically, and you have all these fantastic online resources, you still get a paper copy of the main reading. So for somebody at my age, I was like, oh, it's great. And I'm very visual. I like to sort of write all over paper and all over books, and highlight everything. So yeah, I really like that too.
I also do really like the hard copy. It's
very
nice of them to send through the post. I was happy about that.
Yeah.
What you've both managed to do there is beat me to my next question, which was around what's been useful for you in terms of learning. Now, that can be anything from the digital to the hard copy manuals that we send, to the contact time with supervisors and in workshops. But is there anything else that's kind of stood out for you as you've gone through the course that's been really useful for you when it's come to facilitating the learning?
Should I go?
Yeah, go for it, Kate.
Sorry. It was quite a lot at the start, and it's gradually we're having a slightly longer gap between our meetings, but we have one-to-one meetings with our personal tutors, which are really helpful. So it's just an opportunity for us to feedback, and again, you get the impression that they are really genuinely listening to your feedback. It's not just a tick box exercise. They are, they're writing notes, they're remembering what you're saying, which is really nice to feel valued and listened to. And also just to discuss any sort of, for me, for example, we were discussing techniques to sort of get my head around the volume, basically, because it is, even though I'm also doing the part-time version of the conversion course, it still does feel like quite a lot of content, obviously, because we're non-law graduates. So really useful to be able to discuss with someone who's been there. Again, they've got all the experience of being, having taught this kind of content for a long time, so they know their stuff and they know what works for students. So yeah, Liz, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, so I think one of my favorite things is the fact that the portal app on my phone. So sometimes I have to commute into work, and I just love being able to sort of sit on the train and open up the app, and just you have a calendar on there with all the workshops, all the dates are on there, and for each workshop then they've given you everything to read. They've done all the hard work for you, so you just click on this link and it opens up to the exact article that they want you to read, or click on the link and it opens up to the podcast that you mentioned, Kate, and it'll give you links to the places in Westlaw, the cases that you need to look up, and all the PDF files are on there, and it's just so easy to access that. And for me, having like a busy schedule, I'm sure many of you have as well, just be able to access the calendar on the go, right? Oh, what's next now? Oh yeah, I got that on Tuesday, and oh, what's the date for that? And just be able to look at it anytime. That is just, it really is a user-friendly rather app. It really is really helpful to be able to access that on the go, so I like that.
Yeah, and I'm really pleased you've kind of pointed that out, because one question that we get, especially from a lot of undergraduates at the moment, or recent undergraduates, they've obviously studied at universities during COVID, Kate, which you might have experienced, and a lot of universities had to go online, and a lot of students didn't enjoy that whilst they had to do it. So a lot of students have a little bit of reservation with us being online. But I think what you beautifully described there, Liz, is how we were set up from the start to be online. So how we can facilitate everything a lot greater online, and which does pose some challenges, studying remotely or from home. And that's my next question to you both. And Liz, we'll start with you. What are the key challenges that you faced studying remotely, studying from home, and how have you tried to tackle those?
Well, the thing is, I like studying and working from home. So I'm not the right person to ask. I think one of the biggest challenges is my cat, who likes to join in the workshops. But other than that, no, I've enjoyed it because you're studying in the comfort of your own home. So I might look sort of professional from here upwards, but down below I've got my hot water bottle and my blanket. I'm really sad. I got a cup of tea and everything, and I really enjoy studying from home. So I have found it fine, to be honest. And I wanted an online course to fit around my full-time work. I could not have found anything like this locally in person. It just wasn't accessible. But this is accessible, and very professional. So yeah, I enjoy it.
Amazing. Kate, any challenges for you?
I'd say the one thing would probably be just that in person kind of getting to know your classmates. But we do have a group chat. I'd say by now we kind of feel quite comfortable with each other. I don't feel like if I ask a question, and I think everyone's nice, they're understanding, they all know that we're here to learn.
Yeah, you started that, Kate, didn't you? The WhatsApp group.
Yes, yeah, I thought it had to be done. And also I think the college put on a session at the weekend. I haven't actually been able to go to one yet, but they've definitely set up a session. I think there's two actually, one on a Saturday morning and one on a Sunday afternoon, which doesn't involve any of the supervisors, so it would just be kind of like a peer learning sort of setup, which again is designed to facilitate, try and allow us to build up some rapport and kind of get to know each other a little bit better, as well as discuss any problems we have with any of the legal issues that we've covered in a particular workshop. So again, I think the college are aware of it, and they're trying to make our lives as easy as possible in that sense.
Our academic team do try their absolute hardest. They're brilliant. The workshops, we've touched on workshops and we've mentioned them briefly. What would be great, Kate, describe a workshop to us. What is the workshop? Because I think workshop sometimes means different things to different people. Describe a workshop for the college to somebody who wouldn't know what one is.
Okay, so we're given access to all of the resources in advance, so they'll publish it right at the start of the sort of block of teaching. So the workshops are 2 hours long. We spend the bulk of the workshop looking at, well, to start off with, we'll kind of go over the main legal principles and just check our understanding there. So probably spend about 20 minutes or so going over that, asking any questions you may have from any of the reading you've done. If anything's not clear from the outset, that's your opportunity to sort of clarify anything before you move into the scenario template, which is a case study. And I find them really interesting. I think it's also very kind of practical and very focused on what we're actually going to be doing, hopefully, when we qualify as solicitors, because so you're given a load of facts and you have to apply the law to the situation, which is what we're going to be doing when we qualify. So yeah, it's again good to see how it plays out in practice and how you can actually, you get tips because the supervisors have been there themselves in practice and they've worked as solicitors and they've got all that experience. You get tips about how they'd apply the law and how they'd approach it to provide the best outcome for their client, given their particular interests. So we'll probably spend the bulk of the workshop on that. So that's probably about an hour maybe. And then we'll have a short break and then we come back and we do an issues part. So that will be looking at a particular question for a given topic. So it'll be like, to what extent does and then we'll discuss that, and again that's sort of got a slightly more academic focus rather than the practical focus, but again interesting to sort of see the different sides of the legal arguments, and yeah, interesting once again to hear from someone who's experienced it firsthand, working as a solicitor, as well as what I also really enjoy is getting everyone else's views. So for example, one of our classmates is a policeman. So it's really interesting to be able to hear his side of things, because obviously he's got a slightly different slant to the legal standpoint on things. But yeah, I enjoy that kind of collaboration that we have, especially in the templates that we do.
Oh, brilliant. Liz, do you have anything to add?
Yeah, I think I just will expand a little bit on what Kate mentioned about the prep. So, like Kate said, it's a 2-hour workshop, but we have like a selected reading to do beforehand of cases they would like us to familiarize ourselves with, and articles to read, and section in the manual that I showed you earlier to read. And they say it can be between 12 and 18 hours of reading prep to do, and you do that in preparation for the workshop, and you write out your answers in these templates that Kate mentioned that they give us. So there's a scenario template like Kate mentioned, and also the issues like she said, but just kind of emphasize that there's quite a lot of reading to do, and you can do that of course in your own time. I do mine mostly on weekends, sometimes when I'm on the train as well. So that's the bulk. I think it's a self-reading, self-learning program mainly, I would say. The 2 hours workshop are really, really helpful, definitely. But it's self-reading, so you need to sort of read everything that they as much as you can. I think it's fair to say that we don't all read everything, Kate, do we, all the students, because it's so much.
No, not everything.
You just have to use your time wisely. But yeah, the idea is do the reading before you get to the workshop, put all your answers in the templates, bring those to the workshop, and then you consolidate it, I think, Kate, would you say, in the workshops?
Yeah, definitely. And just double check that you're on the right lines with your answers, and yeah,
writing everything the lecturer says.
Yeah.
I think what's really interesting is obviously people who take this course are from a non-legal background, so you're reading around knowledge that you're not 100% sure on. So Liz, it'd be great to hear from you to start with. When it comes to these workshops and these spaces, do you feel they're comfortable spaces for everybody in there? Do you feel that you can contribute in there? Do you feel that if you say something, it's not going to necessarily be judged because you are coming from a background that you're discussing something you're not 100% sure on?
Well, I hope so. I do feel comfortable. you know, obviously sometimes when it's online it can be a bit quiet to begin with, and I just kind of like to break the ice and be a bit, you know, chatty.
Nice.
Just yeah, but yeah, I think it's comfortable. I'm sure Kate would agree, you know, it really is. Yeah, and sometimes I know the last few weeks I've spoken up in the workshop and got the answers wrong, and I'm like, well, that's all right, you know, because I'll learn what the right answer is any moment now, you know. So that's fine, you know, and we're all there to learn, you know, none of us are experts in law. That's why we're on the course, you know, and certainly the lecturers certainly don't make you feel that way at all. You know, they don't sort of yeah, they're very good and very understanding and will answer your questions, and when I get things wrong, you know, they'll tell me what the right answer is. So yeah, I'm very comfortable with that. And like I said, I did sort of, because I did struggle a little bit to begin with. My biggest fear coming into this was, oh my goodness, the legalese language. You know, Kate, you talked about loving languages. Isn't there like a legal speak kind of lingo? That was my biggest concern. And you'll find that with some of the cases, particularly the older ones, is kind of, oh my goodness, I have no idea what this means. But there are so many other resources as well out there that you can get case summaries. You know, I invested in these books, the concentrate books, just to kind of add to my learning. I find these really helpful as well. So yeah, so no, it's very comfortable.
Well, anything from you, Kate, on that?
Yeah, all I'd say is that I kind of feel like quite often, even when you're asking a question that maybe feels a little bit, well, it's like teachers always used to say at school, there's no such thing as a stupid question, but it's true, because you can tell that a lot of people quite often are thinking the same things but don't want to say it. So one of us normally will speak up and say it, and I think, I don't know, I certainly feel very comfortable until I feel like I know my classmates now, even though it's online. I feel like, you know, we get on pretty well. And yeah, as Liz said, you know, they take the time when you ask a question to really make sure that you understand it, and they're not just kind of batting the question away. They'll go into depth, as much depth as you need to really make sure that you've got that full understanding that you want. So all good.
Well, Liz, you just touched on it slightly, the lingo and language, and what would be really great to hear from both of you, and Liz, again, we'll start with you. How have you found adapting into a new profession or learning a new profession? How have you found that transition?
Well, I mean, I find it very interesting because I do like learning, and I get very bored just focused on one thing. So what I found very interesting was the fact that I've sort of worked in a little bit in politics the last few years, and how that knowledge and background has really helped me with law. You know, understanding how the governments work and how laws are made and things like that has been a real help. And I think without that I might have struggled a bit more, you know, but yeah, no, I'm really enjoying it. You know, because there's so many subjects within law. You know, we study 6, I think, don't we, Kate, during the GFL. So we've just done 3 now, and we're at the assessment stage, and we're going to start another 3 subjects, and it's just fascinating to learn about these subjects, you know, and also how you can assist people in the future and help them, you know, because it is quite an altruistic profession. I think, you know, you can make it like that. So yeah, no, I have found it really interesting, you know, and the career opportunities out there, you know, in the legal profession, you know, yeah, there are quite a lot of those as well, you know. So yeah, I find it very positive, the career change.
Hey, you said obviously you did a languages and management degree at Bath and briefly touched on law. What about the same question for you? How have you found that transition?
I've really enjoyed it. Kind of similar to Liz, I enjoy learning new things, and I think I sort of knew going into it that obviously there are going to be some areas that you enjoy more than others. That's just the nature of anything. But yeah, I enjoyed the process of sort of like, I don't know if you find this as well, Liz, but at the start I quite often feel like, whoa, this is a lot of information. And then as each workshop goes on, slowly the kind of the picture's building, and you sort of get more of a sense of how it all fits together. So I quite enjoy that process of, you know, starting from no knowledge to going away thinking, okay, I actually feel like I could, you know, explain myself in this kind of scenario. And then I enjoy that kind of feeling of getting a real sort of satisfaction from building up from zero to, you know, being able to hopefully, well, we'll see how the assessments go, but hopefully be able to advise a client. So yeah, very enjoyable.
And I think the fact there are no exams is a big plus as well. And if any of you speak Latin, you have an advantage.
Yes, agreed on that one.
So if there's any takeaway from this, knowing Latin is the big one. I think what would be great to kind of delve in on, and I'll start wrapping the questions up in a minute, is how is the GFL fitted into your timeline? Because people obviously go, all right, I want to transition into law. This is kind of what I want to do. How is that fitted in, you know, into that professional timeline, but also your day-to-day life? Kate, we'll start with you.
I think certainly on the part-time side, so it's 2 hours a week in terms of your workshop, but obviously you're spending significantly more than that, probably, but I think it's between 15 and 20 on the guidance prepping for the workshop. So it's quite easy in terms of being able, for me anyhow, being able to fit it in terms of my commitments job wise. And I've forgotten the first part of your question.
Don't worry.
I'm talking about the personal bit. Into my career timeline, basically, how it fits. Okay. Yeah, so as Liz said, I think it's set out quite nicely in terms of it's quite a nice progression from non-graduate degree, GFL, and then it's set up in terms of going on to do your SQE preparation courses with the college, if that's what you choose to do. And yeah, I'm also applying to vacation schemes and training contracts now, so you have to apply 2 years in advance for those. So doing that at the same time as the GFL, but I think it's manageable. It's busy, but it's manageable if that's what you want to do.
Yeah. Go on, Liz, jump straight in.
Well, through my research, I realised as you mentioned at the start, we need to have 2 years work experience as well as all the SQE exam passes and everything. So when I started this, I thought, oh, I'll start looking for maybe legal jobs, you know, because this gets started on that, you know, because not being a spring chicken, you know, time is of the essence, you know. So I was very blessed to have found a job as a paralegal where they train you. So I started that in November, the month after I started the course. And so that's worked really well. And they agreed to give me 2 hours off of my workshop. I mean, I was just so blessed, really. And I do a lot of studying on the weekends, so it fits around everything for me really quite well. So I think if you can get that legal experience at the same time as studying, you're killing 2 birds in 1 stone, aren't you?
That's so good to hear. Liz, I'm aware you've got to shoot, so I want to ask you one quick question before you jump away. Would you recommend the GFL to other non-law graduates?
In a heartbeat, Matt, definitely. Yeah, I have absolutely no reservations. Definitely recommend.
Amazing. Well, Liz, thank you for joining us. I'm aware you've got to go. So thank you so much for your time. I really do appreciate it.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye.
And then Kate, quickly to you. You know, would you recommend the GFL to non-law graduates as well?
Yes, I definitely would recommend. I think I completely understand the whole sort of it's low cost, it's a new provider, those kind of concerns, but honestly, it's been really positive. I can't say anything negative about my experience so far. As we've mentioned, the cost, it's just really good value for money. You feel really listened to. You're able to go to them with any problems you have, and I think it's a really, really fantastic platform, hopefully, for our future careers in law. So, would definitely.
That's so good to hear a lot of positive remarks come back there, and I think that's a great testament to our academic team, who really are fantastic. So, Kate, thank you so much for a lot of your thoughts there. We've delved into through quite a few things there and tried to pick up different parts of your journey. But what we'd like to do now, before we wrap this up, is just there's a couple more things that we'd like to discuss around our program. So hopefully you should be able to see the PowerPoint in front of you. I'm going to hope. Give us a nod, Kate, if it's there. Perfect. So everything that you see on the screen in front of you here is around the support we provide. We really do believe in at the college that the profession of law, should be accessible, but there needs to be support to be able to make it accessible to a wider group of people. So there's a lot of things that we put in place that we think helps a very large number of people get into the profession and succeed there when they're trying to attain the qualifications. So you can just see in those six shapes around the individual in the middle, we kind of outline the different key areas for us, which is key support. So to start in the top and the middle, a dedicated college student services team. So this student services team oversee your application and admission into the college. They are then your support team if you have any issues throughout your time, if you need extra mitigating circumstances for a deadline or for a assessment. So they're there to support you throughout your whole time during the college. We then have IT and wellbeing support. IT support is available nearly every day of the year, apart from Christmas Day. Is the only day that they take themselves off, bless them. And also free access to wellbeing support as well. As sometimes studying from home, while some people love it, some people don't mind it, but there are some aspects that people struggle with. Or it could be anything more generic, but that wellbeing is there to support all of our students. I believe Liz touched on it, or yourself, Kate. We do student study groups. So on the GFL, on the weekends, we open up Zoom sessions as it was alluded to, just peer support and peer study. So there's no supervisor there, no member of the college, it's just students. So it's an opportunity for you to sit and ask each other questions, work with each other, a little bit like you would at university. You go sit in the library and you sit there and kind of work and chat at the same time. It's an opportunity to socialize as well. You have town halls. So town halls they're focused much more around the course structure itself, and how it's going to be delivered and what's upcoming. So as opposed to content to sit and discuss from an academic perspective, it's much more around how is the course structured over the next couple of weeks, what do you need to be doing, and it's just an opportunity to get any news that we need to get to you verbally. We've spoken a lot about the workshops with subject matter experts, but they're obviously there to go over content that you've done a lot of pre-reading around and then start to discuss some case matters. And then also the one-to-one personal tutor guidance. So what we find with some students who've been studied at university, sometimes getting a hold of your supervisor can be quite difficult, or your tutor can sometimes be difficult. And Liz said earlier, she sends an email and usually she gets an email back within 24 hours. So there's real great opportunity to have the regular one-to-one contact time with your supervisor, but also regular contact with them outside of that. So there's so much support that we put around you to make sure that you have the best opportunity to succeed into becoming a solicitor. Our courses. So how can you apply to our courses? So from this year, any programme of ours, you need to have a 2-2 minimum classification in a UK undergraduate degree or equivalent experience. And we will consider first-class degrees. We don't rule them out. But as part of process, what we do is we say if you have a third-class degree, we would just get you a meeting with one of our academic members of staff. That isn't an interview. That's not you being interviewed to get on the course. It's just working out the suitability. We don't want you to pay a lot of money and sign up to a course that you might struggle to complete. We want to make sure that it's the best opportunity for you. If English isn't your first language, you need to have an IELTS or equivalent qualification certificate with at least 6 in every component. If you've completed an undergraduate degree at an English university, you don't need to provide that as you've done it in an English-speaking course. And you can apply to all of our programs on our website. And we have our next course starting there on the right-hand side. So if you're looking to complete a program, we do have one coming up soon. And then we also have further courses starting later in the year if you're looking for a part-time or full-time. And then we do also align our courses. So we have SQE preparation courses starting not too long after, so that all of that knowledge that you spend 20 or 40 weeks taking on, we then make sure there's a good opportunity to get onto another course not long after that when you want to start your SQE prep. So that's how you can apply to one of our courses. We are here to help. What else can you do? What else can you get involved with? The recruitment team, we're more than happy to have one-to-one conversations, phone calls, Zoom calls. So if you're interested in booking a call with us, you can use that top left QR code, but we also have an SQE information group. So if you want to keep up to date with the SQE opportunities that are out there, deadlines potentially for or applications on vacation schemes or other events where people are talking at them we think might be useful. We share all information in there. And then we also have more events coming up on the right hand side. So next Wednesday we've got a really interesting webinar looking at demystifying success in law for neurodiverse junior lawyers. So if you just want to find out experiences of lawyers in industry, a fantastic workshop. But we're also offering it from the perspective of somebody who is neurodiverse. So we have some panelists who have neurodiversity, and they will offer it through a different lens. So it gives you a really grounded understanding of getting into the profession and how challenging for some people it can be. Then we also have, I haven't changed the date there, apologies. In March, we have one coming up looking at making the SQE your next career step with the college. So looking at our courses from the LLM and the SQE perspective as well. So there's a lot to get involved with. That is the end of our presentation. So thank you so much, everybody, for joining. But my bigger thanks go to Kate, who's still here with us, and obviously Liz as well. Kate, I don't know if you had any kind of last comments you just wanted to make before we signed off.
I'd just add that as well as the course fees being so much cheaper than a lot of other providers, you also pay in installments, which is quite nice as well, because then, so I paid one of them, paid a deposit when I first signed up, and then my first installment, and then my second one's due in February. So you've got time in between, which makes it even more accessible. So hopefully, you know, I really do believe that the college is trying to make the legal profession more accessible, and it's really, you know, really good to see. So would just highlight that as well.
Amazing. Thank you, Kate. People, everybody, thank you for joining us. This will be sent out to everybody who has registered, but we will also be uploading this to YouTube. So if people want to watch this back and go over information, hear what Kate or Liz has said again, you can find it on our YouTube account, the College of Legal Practice. But everybody, thank you for attending, and Kate, thank you as well.
Thank you very much. Thank you, everybody. Oh, I'll just say as well, just a shameless plug. I'm a student ambassador for the college, so I have an Instagram set up, which is Kate Converts to Law. So if anyone has any further questions, please feel free to message me. I don't bite. More than happy to answer any questions. So, but thank you very much, Matt, and thank you everyone for listening.
Okay, that is not a shameless plug. That's fantastic. I love it. Thank you so much for attending, everybody, and have a lovely evening.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Bye.